Game Beard.
Welcome to the first Battletech Legends paint video. Today we're going to paint Charles Kincaid's Mackie, and I have created some simple decals, paper decals for you to use, and you can get those decals at gamebeard.com, so download those. You can cut them out and paste them onto your mech as you paint. This video is mainly going to be an overview of a tutorial. It's not going to be like, I'm not going to show you every paintbrush stroke because there's plenty of other good videos out there about painting. I'm just going to show you my process as best I can, and I'll show you how to put on most of those decals, and let's see how our results are going to end up. Here you can see I've painted my Mackie basically with some olive drabs and kind of some like army colors, some kind of like brownish greens. And I basically painted that cockpit. All right, and I'll paint it, I'll add the details later. So now I'm applying glue with my toothpick, right? So I'm applying white glue, Elmer's glue, and I'm gonna add some decals. I had a video on paper decals. Here you can see on my brown board here, they're all cut out already. I'd cut them out with a scissors, and it's a chore. So here it is. I'm going to stick it on, and then I have to use that X-Acto blade to kind of poke it and pick it up. It's too small to pick up. It's difficult to pick up. You want to use a sharp X-Acto blade so it'll poke it. Then I'm going to press down, and the decal is on. That background, it's like a light gray. It doesn't really match. I'll have to go back and paint it. Here I'm adding some little warning stripes. So there they are, putting them in there. Hard to see. I pre-cut all of those. I have a paper decal video, so if you want a little more instruction on how to do that, you can watch that video. Basically, I'm just using white glue, toothpick, and then I have to pick it up with my X-Acto blade. Here, I can't get my fingers in there to press down, so I'm using a paintbrush. Anything you got to stick it in there. All right. Yeah. Now, the funny thing about this decal is, and you'll see these icons or these little badges or decals in the book, like they painted them on, but, and here you'll be able to see them okay. Like here you can see this decal, but to the naked eye, it is hard to see that detail. Like I can see it in the close-up video, it's like a microscope, but it's hard to see in real life. Now maybe if you're a 20-year-old, you'll be able to, in your 20s, you'll be able to see that, but I'm older and my vision is not as good as it used to be, so it's hard to see that stuff. These are tiny little decals, and I tried to recreate some of those decals from the painting in the book, in the Battletech Legends book. So here you can see them, they're tiny. Like look at that one on the shoulder. I mean, yeah, you could see it close up, but like in reality, like when it's like, good luck seeing it. But anyways, it's there if you want to use it. Here I'm applying some warning stripes on the inside of the legs. You'll have to apply these as you see fit, right, where you want to put them. And then you have some liberty too. Like you don't get to see the sides of the arms. Like you'll see later, I put my own decals on. You know, I kind of made some extras when I made these decals. Like I made some extra 01s. And I even have like, Kincaid's name, you know, like if you can fit that anywhere, that might look good. But I have extra decals that you may or may not want to use. And then you could use other decals too. Like my other paper decal sheet, I got little warning labels and I put some of those on. Here you can see, okay, I'm putting that triangular decal on his ankle there. And you can tell the green doesn't match. So later I'll have to go in and paint the green that I painted my Mackie to match it. Here's a little warning stripe. The Mackie has all kinds of little thin warning stripes. So you want to trim, trial and error, try to trim some thin strips from that big block of warning stripe I have, and then try to cut these about the similar size. I'm kind of trimming them here. And then I'm going to glue them on. I already put the glue on. I'm just going to kind of stick this thing on. These are tricky, but the nice thing about those paper decals is cut a bunch of them until you get the right shapes. If you get some bad shapes, throw them away. It doesn't really cost you much extra. And then glue them on. Here you can see a bunch of those warnings. So here's a bunch of those warning stripes and decals. Here you can see I put that little circular thing on the side of his leg. Okay, here you can see I'm gonna paint to match the mech. So like it's kind of like that green gray, and I'm going in and I'm gonna paint around the decal to match. It's hard to see, but I'm gonna paint so that they match. And so I'll do like kind of this gray a little bit, and then I'll paint the kind of the olive drab around, like, yeah, there I am. I'm painting it around those circles. It's hard to see, I apologize, but it's, it's a lot of work. I'm using the same green that I used to paint my Mackie in the first place, so it will eventually match. And in a perfect world, my green background in the paper decal would have matched your paint perfectly, but there's no way I can guess. That green tended to be lighter than my paint, so I just have to paint over it. But it's definitely doable, and if you kind of mess up a little, like if you kind of mess up and get a little bit of your green on your decal, it's as if the decal was kind of wearing off or scraped off, right? So if you make a little mistake, you might want to make another little mistake, so it's purposeful, right? Oh my gosh, here you can see I'm painting the highlights. I'm adding, I'm painting some highlights, and I hate to do this. It is such a chore. And I do it, but then sometimes these models are so tiny that you can't help but make the highlights too big. And so I'm gonna paint these highlights, and then later I'm gonna go back and thin them by painting green. Like I'm gonna basically thin them again. Like I'll go back with the other paint and kind of touch up my highlights. Oh boy, it is not fun to do. I really dislike doing it, but I feel it does add to your model, and so I reluctantly paint all these highlights. And I got this tiny little brush doing this, and those highlights still turn out really large. So I don't know what to tell you. Good luck. It's hard. Or just don't paint those little highlights. Usually what I do is, here you can see okay, so here I'm going to touch up my highlights. So it's hard to see, but I'm gonna basically, like my highlights were a little too thick, and then I'm painting on the edge. It's kind of hard to see. And then let's see if we can see that. Yeah, it's so tiny. So I basically make my highlights thinner so that they look nicer. And you're probably thinking like, Dave, if you were a master, you would be able to paint those perfectly the first time. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, well, welcome. This is my reality. Okay, now I'm painting like a muddy wash. It's kind of like a brown, blackish wash. It's a privateer press. I believe it's called Mud or something like that. But there's all kinds of good dark brown washes out there. You could even make it. But this is one of my favorites. And so what I'm doing is I'm painting kind of like this light stain over some of my decals, so it kind of stains my decals. So the decals aren't perfect. I don't want my decals to be perfect. I want them, they've been in battles and there's a lot of dirt. And so I have found that if you paint kind of like these oil stain marks, and usually I paint little streaks of dirt on like over my decals, it makes them, and I try to make them thin. That one was not thin. My brush is a little, so I'll go back with an even thinner brush. This one's not too thin. This one's like a general mud application. And then I'm gonna have a thinner brush to get thinner lines, and I paint these little like mud stains, like these thin, drippy mud stains. Not everywhere, just here and there to break up some of those decals, and it makes them more believable. And I like it. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, here I'm adding a little bit of mud black stain kind of in the cracks. Yeah, I'm kind of mussing up my mech a little. It's dirty and it's old too. Hey, this is like the OG Mackie, right? This thing, it's filthy. Technically, they probably would have cleaned it up and put it in a museum. It probably would have been immaculate. But no. This one's from the battlefield, right? Okay, again, I'm painting. Now, my wash is pretty thin. You want to be careful because these paper decals, they can really suck up like a darker color. So if I were you, when you do this, start lighter. Like add some water, a little bit of water to your washes because you don't want it to be too dark on your decals. Okay, now I've got my thin brush. And this time, this is like a dark brown paint. It's like I don't know, is this it right here? Is it umbral? Let's see. I don't got it. But you want to pick like a real dark brown black. And I'm painting, now here I'm actually, this is a little more paint than wash. So it gives me a little control over my kind of dirt and oil stains. And I'm just painting these thin lines. And you want to find logical parts where like, it would drip down, or like rain would drip down the dirt like from the mech, and it would just leave like a dirt stain. So you want to find like little cracks or little corners, little parts where it looks like dirt would build up and then water would just push it down. Oh my gosh! Here's my goopy. This is like my what is it? My gloss coat, like my clear gloss coat. So I painted my canopy. I didn't go crazy. Some people go crazy jeweling their canopy. I mean, I painted it. This is tiny. It doesn't look that impressive because my camera zoomed in on it, but it looks okay for my standards. And I put some, but I do like to do a gloss coat on that canopy so that it will look more glassy. Okay, here I'm finally adding some white glue, and I'm adding my Kincaid sticker. This is optional, of course, but it's kind of nice to have this decal. There was like another YouTuber, and he actually painted this stuff on by hand. I mean, good for him, but that's a lot of work. So if you don't want to do that, you can just use these decals, these paper decals, and it's neater because you don't have to paint it by hand, and it's a little easier too. Also, it'll look more uniform if I do a series of this, and I'll do a decal for all the characters, and you can just kind of print these out and just stick them on. It'll make it more uniform. But if you're like an amazing painter, go for it. Paint it by hand. I mean, knock yourself out. Here, this is for the back. The back, again, this is optional. This is just like the name, the Mackie. And you can just stick it on the back. So there it is in all of its glory. I don't have a good turntable, so you're just going to have to look at it right here. Yeah, here's the back. You can see some of those stains, some of those dirtied up decals. And that's it for this Mackie. That was the video for Charles Kincaid's Mackie, and it was pretty decal heavy. I mean, that's good if you get my paper decals, but it's a lot of work for that process. In upcoming videos, there's less decals to use. So if that was difficult for you, it won't be as difficult in the future. In fact, our next video in this series will be Kerensky's Orion, right? And they have a pre-painted model of this, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm just gonna paint over the existing pre-painted mech that you can get in the, what is it, the Star League Command Lance. It's a pre-painted Orion. And it's okay. It's okay if you are not a miniature painter. So, and you have to pay extra. You have to pay an extra like $5 for it, which I don't know. I'd rather have another mech. I'd rather have another mech or a little decal sheet, right? But the next video, we're gonna paint it. So we'll paint that and we'll see if we can make that look any better. And then if these videos are viewed and I get enough viewership, then I'll do the other ones. I have, let's see, I want to do Elizabeth Hazen and Jerome Winson for sure. So those are like the Star League mechs. I want to do those mechs for sure. And I'll put up the decals. I already have the decals for Winsome, right, for his Marauder. I don't know, I got ahead of myself. And I have to do Hazen's, so like her Highlanders stuff, decals. So I'll do that. So at a minimum, I'll do those 4 videos. And if people are liking these videos, then I'll do many more of the characters in the book. But I highly recommend the Battletech Legends book. That's where I got this information from. It's really good. It's one of my favorite new books that they have. They have like new art in it, really good. I really enjoy it. And then they even have a Battletech Legends book too that was with the latest Kickstarter. So, and that one's really good. It's just that I currently only have that as a PDF, which is fine. I mean, which is good, but you know, if you weren't part of the Kickstarter, then you gotta wait to get that book. And it was well done. It was well done. So I like these books, and it as they probably intended, they wanted you to get excited about these pilots and these mech warriors, and then inspire you to paint those mechs. And of course I want to paint most of them. But like I said, if the series works out, then I'll try to go in order, and I'll try to paint them. Most of them or all of them. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So that was it for this video. Next time we have Kerensky's Orion, and I'll see you next time.